have all come into this room because you want to warm up your network over winter break. Good, okay. So glad you're here. So winter break is a great time to think about your life, think about your future while you have no work. So, no pressure, but it's a good opportunity to take that downtime to do a little bit of reflecting, a little bit of outreach, so you have a little bit of a foundation come spring semester if you're graduating or if you're trying to plant those seeds for internship search or whatever that may be. So today we're going to hit on a couple things. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about just networking in general. I know it's a scary word sometimes for people. I'm going to do a super brief overview of LinkedIn profiles because a lot of what I'm going to cover today involves taking advantage of LinkedIn, for which you require some type of a profile. But primarily wanting to spend some time in LinkedIn talking about how to use it for exploration and research. And then once you've identified some people that you'd like to connect with, now what? How do I do that? How do I communicate? How do I have this kind of conversation? They come a little more naturally to some people than others. It's a good thing to always just reflect on and get some tips. So, does anyone like the idea of networking? Like they get excited about it? That's good. So I'm to assume the rest of you are not nuts about this idea. So I think the word creates an idea of a schmoozy cocktail reception or something like that, or being extremely extroverted potentially, which perhaps it comes more naturally to others, but think about it more as these things. Meeting people in your field, making connections in your field, asking questions, getting connected, utilizing the connections that you have because you have chosen to come specifically to Maxwell and gone to school at other wonderful institutions with great alumni. So think about it as meeting people in your field, getting advice, getting information, getting referrals, that type of thing to help progress your career forward, because so much of it, as we know, is about who you know. You're all exceptionally brilliant and qualified, but so are so many other people. So if we can get connected, get advice, get helpful connections, that helps move things forward a little bit more productively. So when you think about your network, certainly think about alumni. What you've been hearing about since before you were a student here, the alumni network at Maxwell is super strong and super helpful. But also think about outside of these walls, who else is in your immediate and extended network. So family and friends. Think about maybe what first got you interested in the field that you're studying. Is there someone that sparked that for you? Is that person in the field? Do they have potential connections? Are they themselves a great contact? Think about your professors here. We have so many great people within these buildings that have careers prior to coming here that have great connections. Just think about everyone, pretty much everybody that you know. And then as you think about those people and, okay, is this person somewhere I'm interested in? Maybe, but also think about the hundreds of people that they probably know too. And they're likely to be willing to connect you with. LinkedIn is helpful for seeing that. Some people say, look on my LinkedIn, I'll connect you with whoever I know. So think about the individuals, but then the extension of them and who they're connected with. Hopefully you can see this. We survey our graduates every single year, and one of the questions we ask is, did you contact a Maxwell alum as part of your job search? And this is just a sampling of the responses that we've received. Several alums work for my employer. I spoke with 3 or 4 while in the process of applying for the job. Someone met their current boss at a networking function that we held. Maxwell alum posted the job. We get this daily through our office. Alums sending us jobs and making themselves available to students to contact them about applying, getting help with applications, having conversations. Extremely helpful, and this is just a sampling and from 1 year of students who felt like alum were critical to their success in landing their first job. So as far as just where to start, You may be already clear about what you're looking for, where you're looking for it, but if you feel like you're just jumping into this, not knowing where to start, the first thing that would be productive is just to give yourself a couple of categories, or even if it's just one. Is there a specific organization you know you want to work for? You know you want to work for that organization, so you want to target people that work within or around that organization. Maybe it's not that specific, and of course you don't want to just be relying on one specific organization, but it'll give you a place to start. Is there a sector? Do you want to be working in city government? Do you want to work for federal government, nonprofits, international organizations? Is there a category, a broader category that you're interested in? Is geography important to you? So we have a bunch of alumni in DC, but that doesn't mean that you want to necessarily be there. So is it DC? Is it New York? Is it West Coast? Is it somewhere international? Think about the priorities there. Or maybe are you motivated more by a certain topic? Is it education, healthcare? Are there different topics that motivate your job interests? So what are the things that are considered important to you in your next step forward? Because that will help you to narrow down who you might want to reach out to and connect with. So consider that maybe the first step. I'm going to jump into LinkedIn after this, but just to give you a sense of where I'll be going, I'll do just a quick rundown of the profile, and if people have questions, feel free to ask them. And we're doing drop-ins in our office for the rest of the week from 1 to 3, so you're all welcome to stop in to just individually strategize or talk about profiles, anything like that, and of course we're here next week too. So I'll go over profiles, go over some exploration and research tools, specifically the Alumni Portal, the advanced search within LinkedIn, and the potential value of company pages, and then, okay, that's how you find the people, but how do you want to reach out? So I'll talk about messaging through LinkedIn, Google can be helpful, and then the CUSE community, which is our online alumni database that you all can get access to email alums through that. So I'll pop out of there, and we'll spend some time on LinkedIn. So who has a profile? A good majority. I'm very proud of you. Good job. Next step is update it. So I think I've worked with a decent number of students this semester on updating your profile, but make sure what's up there is reflective of your current situation. So you can go totally crazy on LinkedIn and fill in every category, but you certainly don't have to. I'd suggest having some type of professional headshot photo. Who are you? So we know who you are. Some type of professional summary up there. Mine is obviously reflective of my career, but not uncommon to have something like the degree that you're pursuing, the school where you're currently attending, maybe areas of interest. Feel free to look around at your peers and see what they're doing, but MAIR, graduate student at Maxwell School, MPA student at Maxwell School, perhaps areas of interest. One of our alums did a decent job of that, capturing what they're currently doing, their education, areas of interest. So a photo, a headline. I suggest taking advantage of the summary because your profile represents your present and your past, but it doesn't necessarily represent what you're pursuing or what your future might look like. So you may use that summary as an opportunity to say, I'm a current such and such student focusing on this. Prior to that, I was working on this, that, and the other thing. Now I'm interested in blank. So that's helpful. It sets a direction for where you're going. And then if you're interacting with employers, alums, whomever on LinkedIn, they get a sense of how can I be helpful for the direction that this person is looking to go. So a little bit of a mini elevator pitch in your summary. The rest, for the most part, is similar to your resume. You can represent your background, professional background and experience. You can go to town with a lot of details. Maybe you just want to represent the period of time that you worked there. Definitely make sure your education, your Maxwell education, is included under your education. It'll grant you it'll get you connected through LinkedIn's mysterious ways to other people who are part of that institution also. So it's obviously you want to update it, but it also categorizes you a certain way for searches and other things. And as far as, volunteer work, languages, skills, you can do all of those things, but I would say the most critical pieces being photo, headline, summary, experience. If you want to fill in with a lot of other details, it's totally up to you. But this is mostly just something we want to make sure you have in order to get access to the research. You want it to be updated, but most importantly, just want to have it so you can access the really good resources on LinkedIn. Does anyone have any profile questions before I move on? Yes?
Is there a certain level you have to get to? Like, I don't think mine is, it's funny because it shows that bar one. It's like, oh, you go past this one bar to become an all-star.
Be an all-star profile, yeah. No. I don't think, my personal opinion is not super important. I think they're just trying to entice you to take advantage of all the things that they have. Yes, Nicole?
Would too much information ever be, or would information ever be too much?
Yes, absolutely. I would say this is even a little long. I don't know if anyone would be patient enough to read through this whole summary. It does what I suggest, present, past, future, but you just want, people barely even scroll. They may not even scroll when they click on your profile. So you just want a couple of keywords. Maybe you say, professional interests include this. Like most things, we consume really quickly on the internet, so just make it accessible, readable, save your story for the conversation, maybe just first major takeaways for this. The only exception to that, I would say, is you can apply for jobs using your LinkedIn profile, and if you choose to do that, just make sure you have as much information as you would want an employer to have on your resume, on your profile for that, in that specific instance. One little thing that I'll mention in the profile is, I think as most of you know, if you look at someone's profile, it says, Nicole Kane looked at your profile, Lauren Meyer looked at your profile. You can turn this off so you can peruse without the individual being notified, which I think can be helpful in case that is a hindrance to you to look up people so they know that you're looking at them. So in order to change your privacy settings, you can click your little picture up here where it says me, go to settings and privacy, and then profile viewing options. And the default is to just be, no secrets, this is who looked. If you go, you can go fully anonymous in private mode, and then you can look without any sort of notifications going to that person. So I recommend it. The only thing is then you're not notified when people view your profile, but in my opinion, it's better to have full advantage of the research than those little notifications. The only exception to this is if you have, if the person has premium, LinkedIn Premium, which they pay for, and then they're notified. But I would say most people don't have that. So privacy settings. Yep. No, I do not recommend you pay for Prime. I don't think there's very little, it's expensive, and there's very little additional benefit. I would say the greatest benefit with Premium, I have it, but I don't think as grad students you need to pay for these things. You can send a lot of in-mails. Like communication is easier, but we have a lot of loopholes that don't require you to pay $50, $60 a month or whatever it is for Premium, so I don't think you need to do it. Okay, so I'm going to jump into some of the, oh sure, go ahead. The what? The endorsements, are you referring to? No, I'm referring to recommendations. People buy about them.
That's under endorsements.
You can hide them.
Yeah, but you would actually need it, right? If you want someone to have.
Oh, you're saying you don't have control because someone needs to write them for you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, that's
the
true.
problem is that not many people take this seriously because they push it off on social media. So
Yeah.
how would you ask a professional to make a recommendation or someone you work with?
I would simply ask. So you can ask through LinkedIn, or you can contact people who you may have worked for, and you might say that you're in graduate school and you're starting a job or internship search. Would you be willing to craft a short recommendation about working for you, something to that effect? I have some of my recommendations are unsolicited, some I solicited because they seemed out of date or something. Most people are willing to do that, especially if you do it in exchange. So even if it's a peer, we worked on a project together, this old boss, this faculty member. So I think it's perfect. I wouldn't worry too much if you don't have them, but if you want them, I wouldn't hesitate to ask. Sure.
For recommendations, do you think, so for every job listing that you have, do you think you need a recommendation on your profile for each of them? No.
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I'm starting to feel a little stale that I don't have any Maxwell recommendations, so feel free. But I think it's a matter of preference. I don't.
Okay.
You may think about it that way. I don't even think it matters enormously if you don't have recommendations at all. It looks good. Sure.
Do with this under featured skills and endorsements, how much do those matter in terms of how people endorse you, and would it be the same process to ask people to endorse you on these skills?
So I'm biased. I think this is a dumb category, and no one cares about it. That's just my opinion, because people endorse you that you've never met for things you've certainly never done for them, and I think most people recognize that. I believe you can add a skill that you want to be endorsed for, but in my humble opinion, I would not worry too much about this category. I think I heard from someone once that you can eliminate it from your profile altogether. I don't know if that's true, and I don't know how to do it, but I think it's possible. Libby, what were you going to say?
For skills like proficiency with certain programs,
Yeah.
would you recommend that we keep those under the skills section or put them under our, maybe add a little bit of detail about our education? What do you think is the best way to highlight that?
I think if it's something really critical that if there's anything you absolutely want a reader of your profile to know, I think this is your best option. It's somewhere in the summary. I've been to presentations from LinkedIn employees, and they just say how few people go beyond a scroll or a part of a scroll. So the expectation for someone to look at your entire profile and read all the content, I think might not be super realistic, so you can take advantage of, or similar to a resume. Maybe you fill in the sections appropriately, but the things you want to draw special attention to, mention somehow in the summary.
Another question, because I'm just on my profile, realizing there's some sections that I other ones I don't use. Do you think it's useful to have if we have significant volunteer involvement? Do you think we should have that on there as well? I just realized mine is only my work.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts. It shows some type of other. I think people like to see that sort of balance, or maybe people might find a connection to you through your volunteer work. I would, as far as the content, I'd probably generally try and replicate a version of what's on your resume for the profile, with the addition of the headline and summary for the most part. You can, like I said, you can fill, there's a ridiculous amount of stuff that you can fill in with, exam scores, standardized tests, things like that. Use what you think you want someone viewing your profile to know about you, keeping in mind this is primarily what they're going to be consuming, at least for our purposes. But take it as far as the content, take it as seriously as you would like. One other thing I'll mention before I go on to the search stuff is some people include their LinkedIn hyperlink places, and there is a way to customize this in your profile, edit public profile and URL here. Click. you can customize your URL. So it might say a lot of letters and numbers, but over where my mouse is right there, edit public profile URL, you can customize that to some version of your name if that's of interest. And then the public profile is if you're basically someone Google searches you, what shows up. So if you Google me, the only thing you're going to see is what's right here. Got a lot of connections, my name, my field, my location. So that's something to think about too. Okay, so I'm going to jump into one of my favorite LinkedIn tools. So follow me here. The Alumni Portal. So you can, for what I'm going to be going through, you can do this for any institution that you're a part of. And think about Maxwell School, but obviously don't forget about Syracuse University broadly, though you'll likely start with Maxwell. So if you go up to our search bar here and search the Maxwell School, there's going to be a few things that pop up, but you're going to want to click on Syracuse University Maxwell School, the school page versus the group versus the company. Maxwell School, school page. Once you click into the Maxwell School page, there's this option to see alumni, which will bring you to the the Maxwell School Alumni Portal, which is a helpful tool, especially if you don't really know where you want to start necessarily, because it gives you everybody and everything and gives you options to filter through. Maybe you just want to put in a keyword. Maybe you want a certain location. It has where they live, where they work, what they do broadly, what was studied, key skills, level of connection. So through here, it just represents all of the Maxwell School alumni and their profiles. So even just skimming through this can show you different people. Their headlines tell you what they do, but you can be a lot more targeted in your exploration than that. So I'll go through a couple of samples just to give you ideas. So Maxwell School alumni in DC. If you click that, then it's going to redistribute everything and show you our 1,500 Maxwell alumni in DC who happen to be on LinkedIn. Perhaps you think you're interested in DC and you're interested in consulting. So then it brings it down to a much more manageable number, not over 8,000 necessarily, but 111, which maybe on during an evening is not the end of the world to kind of go through different people who might be working in consulting. So, and that's a good example because consulting is one of these areas where we know like 3 big names off the top of our heads probably, but there's so many more organizations where that came from. So looking broadly at consulting and seeing all the different types of firms that are out there that people work in could be a helpful exercise. So, for example, we have an alum, Forrest Ball, works in consulting, works for an organization called the Lewin Group, which maybe you've heard of, but maybe you haven't, which can now just expose you to other options. Maybe you want to look into what type of consulting do they do. And a nice thing that I really like about LinkedIn and the company pages, which I mentioned. So say consulting is your thing, and you're trying to generate a list of different consulting organizations, different nonprofits, whatever your area may be. All you need is one to really start exploring and generating a list. So let's say I'm interested in the Lewin Group and other similar organizations. If you click that logo, it's going to bring you to Lewin Group's company page. It's going to tell you connections from where you are, that may be at this organization, people from your company, how many employees, job postings. What I like most about the company page is that it gives you a bunch of other similar companies. So if you're interested in consulting and you think, okay, I know these couple, but I don't know beyond that, then maybe you find one through an alum, and then you're generated over here on the right panel here, 5 or 6 additional similar organizations. So that can help grow your organization list that you're interested in pursuing and learning about by just starting with one organization there. So let's say you want to connect with Forrest, you want to ask, you're interested in consulting, you're interested in the Lewin Group, and you want to communicate. There's a couple of options. So if you're not connected, you can just connect and maybe customize a note with that connection. The downside to that is a couple things. People may not check LinkedIn that often. They may see you and say, I don't know this person, so no, I'm not going to connect with them. So another option is to send them an in-mail through a group. So you need premium in order to send people you don't know an in-mail, but the other option is you can message people through a group. So here it tells me that Forrest and I are both in the same Syracuse University alumni group, or if you scroll down to the bottom of people's profiles, it will tell you about their interests, part of which are the groups they're a member of. So you may join a group that this person's a part of, or find one that you share. And I'll show you how to message through a group. So if you're in the group that you and the person you're interested in share, within groups you can click the members that you're a part of, and then search that search the members, and then you can send a message to people you share a group with. So that's like a backwards loophole way to send free messages through LinkedIn. So you have to follow that specific path. But I'll give you a couple of other alternatives for communication. So let's see. So we searched here by location and sector, but maybe you have a dream organization. American Red Cross is your thing. You really want to work for them. Luckily, we have a handful of alumni that work there, a couple from recent years. Maybe you decide that you want to be in the Maine area and you're interested in the Red Cross. So you find Van Thiel here. Another way to message her, so it's through a group, through a shared group, is one way of communicating. The next, and one that we definitely recommend you come into our office and sign up to have access to, is the CUSE community. So this is the broader Syracuse University alumni database. It's cusecommunity.syr.edu. So you can note that, but come into our office too, because we have to give you login credentials since you're current students. But once you have those credentials, you can find, okay, Van Thiel Duncan on LinkedIn, type in under find classmates, type them in by name, search them. They'll hopefully populate. You can click that profile. And then you have this option to send an email. So the CUSE community works in the sense that it's a database. It allows you to email fellow students or alumni, but it does have a layer of protection for everyone, so we can't just spam everybody, but it allows you to email individuals directly through the system. It comes through to their email inbox that they gave to the university. It comes through as a normal email. There's a little asterisk at the bottom that indicates that it's been sent through the Syracuse University online community. Once that person responds to you, then you're just going back and forth via email. So it's a really effective resource for contacting people. So CUSE community, stop into our office, get access to that. So through the groups, through the CUSE community, and as I mentioned, a lot of organizations have their staff just out on like staff pages. So Elizabeth, somebody, American Red Cross email, and I could find pretty easily her direct work email. So just a little bit of sleuthing. I don't know what just happened there. You can almost always find a way to contact people directly. So there's several creative ways to do just that. Any questions about this portal or any of the email communication tools? Yes, so you come into our office, we have you sign a form, and then we give you login credentials that you need in order to sign into this system. You can search it in other ways too, but I would say it's not as effective as LinkedIn. But you can search by location, employer, it'll just give you a list of these people work here versus details about their employment necessarily. But if you want access to this, yeah, just come into our office. So we found this page by going to the Maxwell school page, clicking See Alumni, but the nice thing about once you're in it is you can change your university. So you can do Syracuse University, you can do your undergraduate institution, keep all of those in mind. It's going to only expand the possibilities of who you can connect with. So everywhere that you're connected, try to remember to search when you're exploring. The next tool that I'll mention is the basic LinkedIn advanced search. So this is the basic search bar. And if you click into it and then click this magnifying glass over here, it's going to bring up the advanced search function on LinkedIn, which will allow you to search by all sorts of different things. Keywords, location, current and past companies. Did someone used to work here? Does someone currently work here? So when I'm working with individuals like yourselves on applications, I know we're working on an application for a certain employer. I like to also go into the advanced search and just search, well, first of all, do we know anybody that works at this place where you're applying? So you can get some insight on your application or advice or have a conversation ahead of time. So if you're in the advanced search, you can search current companies. Let's say you just want current companies, 1 acre fund. So the advanced search is going to first work with just who is on LinkedIn, period, that works for this organization, of which there's nearly 1,500. But you more specifically want to know, is there someone from the Maxwell School that works at this organization? Which there is at least one. But then also, you expand that to Syracuse, that may grow, which it does, to at least 4 people that you're somehow connected with through the institution, through the advanced search. So that's very helpful. And then you don't even have to be as specific as that. As I mentioned in that one of those first slides, maybe you just have really broad ideas of where you want to work. Maybe it's Boston area, and you want to work in government, some type of government administration. You have the industries option over here too, which can allow you to search maybe just government administration in the Boston area. Again, it's a gigantic amount. But if we do a little incorporating of Maxwell, it's a much more manageable number. 27 people in the Boston area working for some type of government that you then have access to. Okay, does anyone have any other LinkedIn questions before I get out of it? So, make a profile. The school, Maxwell school page, or school pages in general where you can see alumni. You can message people through groups. Company pages have helpful information about jobs, other similar organizations. So all of those are helpful. And then we've got the Fuse community for email. And of course, don't forget just the option to Google, contact people, however. And if you have any more specific LinkedIn or profile questions, like I said, we've had drop-ins the rest of the week from 1 to 3. You're welcome to come in, or if you just want to generally strategize, you're very welcome to do that, or at any time by appointment. And our office for access to the Fuse community. So when you guys walked in, there was a networking sheet, probably most of you have. on the back of that is this little sample email. So let's say you find the people, but now you have to talk to the people. The initial, you have to send some type of communication, obviously. So we recommend sending some type of short message. If you look at this, this is pretty much all you want to see on your screen when you're writing. People are busy, you don't want them to lose interest just based on how long what you wrote is. So trying to get pretty quick and to the point. So this example just indicates, hello, so-and-so, I'm a current such and such student interested in this area. Previously, a little bit about my background. I worked here and here. I was researching organizations where Maxwell alum are working in this area, and I found you work here. I was hoping you might be available for 30 minutes or so for a phone call or coffee chat or a meetup, whatever it may be. So who are you? Why are you contacting them? What are you interested in? And hopefully you're interested in some type of communication outside of the computer. It will help get people more invested in you, more confident in recommending you places potentially. So what are you asking for? Maybe 30 minutes or a phone call. I'm interested in gaining your insight. What do we want to talk about? Thank you so much. Sign. So pretty straightforward paragraph. Who are you? Why are you contacting them? What are you asking for? And just be appreciative. So there's that sample on our networking sheet, but also just follow your instincts. Keeping in mind less is more. Just try and get on the phone or an in-person meeting. Feel free to follow up, I would say. If you don't hear back from someone within a week or so, try at least one more time. You don't want to just inundate this person. If they're not responsive the first or second time, then maybe transition on to someone else. Could be a matter of not updated information, busy, not interested, who knows, it could be anything. Most people are pretty positive and responsive, but feel free to follow up at least one time. Sometimes people just forget, get lost, whatever the case may be. But hopefully they'll be responsive. Yes, so excited, absolutely, love to chat. Set up some type of time, place to connect in person, on phone, via Skype. And I'd suggest preparing for these conversations, probably not as intensely as you would for a job interview, but prepare. Some people are amazing and fabulous, and you have this really effortless conversation, and it's not even like you're trying. Other people, maybe they're busy, maybe they're expecting you to lead the entire conversation. I think it's better to prepare for the latter, and then you're just over-prepared with information. So, be prepared to initiate the conversation. So, the tell me about yourself question. So, you're meeting, okay, so I'm really interested in this, and so I want to hear about this from you. So, tell me about yourself, a little bit of your elevator pitch, what you're interested in, what your background is, why are you interested in speaking with them, what are you interested in. Show you've done your homework, and that means doing a little bit of homework. So instead of, and I've heard this from alums, instead of, oh, you work here, what do they do? Or what are their departments? Or what is their, just things that you want to already know going into the conversation. You want to know who you're talking to, what you're asking about. So make sure you've done some element of research. And then have some questions prepared in case you need them. You may not need them. It's completely organic, but don't assume that necessarily. So as far as questions go, your most authentic questions are usually going to be the best. There's some go-to questions to help you generate things that you may want to ask during the conversation. But as long as they're appropriate and professional, I would say go to the questions that you're genuinely interested in before some of these simple questions. So here's just a few. If you Google informational interview questions, you'll come up with thousands of options. But just generally, you may want to ask about their current role. So tell them about your current role. How did they get started in their career? How did they get their job where they are? What was their first step out of graduate school or into their career in general? What current projects are being worked on, what are current challenges or maybe downfalls of what they're working on, maybe how functions and departments work together. You want to know what would the environment be like if you're working for this organization. Skills they might recommend you emphasize based on what they're seeing in the field. Are there things you can pick up while you're still a student that may be helpful and help you be more competitive? And it's also really helpful, particularly towards the end of a conversation, if they have other people they recommend you talk to. So that kind of politely grants you access to their network. Maybe they'll recommend another alum. Maybe they'll recommend someone in that they work with that you would not have known if not for them. I teach undergrads, and I was talking to a student yesterday who sort of like a networking chat with a professor who offered to introduce her to alums in her hometown. He connected them, and they offered to host her at this ad agency that she was interested in. And then, so she came in, she spent the day there. They brought in people working on projects that she was interested in. It just kept growing and growing and growing. And people are very generous in that way. So asking, are there other people you think I should talk to? Or maybe you're still looking to grow your list of organizations. Are there other organizations that you're impressed by or you think I should look into? So people and other organizations, directly asking. It'll give you information, and it also gives you an excuse to follow up, because that's sometimes almost the harder part with these things, is you have a great conversation, and then it's like, well, where do we go from here kind of thing. It's nice to lay the groundwork with some of these relationships, so when there is a job posting in 3 months at that organization, you can follow up and say, thanks for our chat a few months ago, I saw this position, do you have any advice on people I should talk to further, or when you look at my application, whatever that may be. So lay that foundation. Maybe you follow and say, thanks so much for our conversation yesterday. You mentioned you connect me with your colleague, and so-and-so, would you mind introducing us by email? So it gives you that chance to follow up. And just a couple of other tips here. So kind of obvious, but be professional. So these are, like I said, not job interviews, but you want to have a layer of professionalism to them. And to be positive, try and tuck away like tons of stress and negativity, anxiety, that kind of thing. I think it's normal to have some conversation about that, but what we don't want happening is just like treating it as a therapy session. So try and keep it positive, try and keep it professional. And it's more for, I think, when you're out there doing the job search and it's not been successful, people can get really stressed out and down, negative. So none of you are there and will never be there. But just in case, just a reminder, be professional, be positive, be someone that this person would want to work with and recommend. So don't ask them to do work for you necessarily. I don't mean like connections, but it just goes back to that homework. Like find everything you can about that organization so you can use them for that next level stuff. Send a thank you. So if you have any sort of chat, send a thank you. Very shortly after, that's where you can also add on things. So if they said, I would connect you, send me your resume, thank you so much. As we discussed, I attached my resume, love your feedback, whatever any of those extra things may be. Follow up and follow through. So if someone they say, okay, I'm going to connect you with my colleague who works in more on education stuff. They send an email. Hi, Joe, I'm connecting you with a current Maxwell student, Sally. We're really interested in this. They're great, blah, blah, blah. And then if you never follow up and respond to that email, that all those relationships are dead. You make that initial connection look bad. I mean, I've seen this happen. I've been part of this falling. Just please follow up, follow through. Just do things that are recommended or you say that you're going to do, because it's really critical in keeping those positive relationships going. So connect with the people they recommend. Find reasons to stay in touch, even if it's just a few months later saying you're starting your job search, or do you know anybody in here I'm looking for, or thought you'd like to know we just worked on this and you mentioned that in our conversation. Just find opportunities to kind of keep it fresh every once in a while. And definitely let people know where you land. Try and be thankful to people that have helped you as you're networking and searching. Because these connections are helpful during a job and internship search, but they're also ones that you may want and need for other reasons down the road. So just finding ways to get and stay in touch. And now, I want you to do these things.
I'm just going to add just on Laura's last point there. The biggest complaint you get from alum or people our students are not working with isn't they bother me too much or they ask the wrong questions. It's none of that. I never heard back from them. That's what you think that, oh my God, if they've helped me, I don't want to bother them anymore. And they're the exact opposite. They're kind of in with you in this process, and they really do want to know, because if something they recommended didn't work out, they may have other ideas, they may have another direction, they may make
or maybe you got a job because of something they did and you didn't tell them.
Right. So it's important that you stay in touch with them, as Laura said, follow up, let them know what's happening, let them know about the things they suggested, what worked, what didn't, what resulted, and also just keep them informed, because I hear all the time, oh, I was having this great conversation, I never know what happened. Do you know where they ended up? Do you know what ended up happening to them? And they really do want you to stay in touch.
Yeah, and just having a little bit of purpose, because I've also heard alums say, like, yeah, I hear from students, and sometimes it's fine, but other times, like, I'm happy to help you, but I don't know what you want me to help you with. So, and it sounds intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. It's like, I just want to hear about your experience, or I want to, I'm trying to decide this and the other thing. So even if it's just advice or ask you some questions about such and such, just have some type of purpose. And like I said, be prepared to lead that conversation yourself. Otherwise, the person's going to be like, yes, but what? Just a little bit of direction.
Or it's their broad. Sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me forever because I don't know what they're asking, I haven't figured it out, or it's so broad that it's going to take me hours, I can't get to it right now. Whereas we give them something specific right at the end, like, would you have time to talk when I'm in DC this date? Or could you just, would you have time to talk to me about how your organization structure? Or just something quick, it's much easier for them to reply right back and get in touch with you quicker than if you leave it too broad and open and they're not sure, now they have to take time to figure it out.
And concentrated periods of time, I think, is manageable. So yes, I can put aside 15 or 20 minutes and be, and recognize that in the moment you're having a conversation, watch the clock, be respectful of their time. Not to say you have to take off right at 15 minutes, but just be mindful of, like, I don't want to take up too much of your time if you have somewhere to go. Because sometimes these conversations are great, they go on much longer than you expect, but you also don't want to hold them hostage either. So you just have just normal interpersonal cues. Yes.
I was just going to say, I don't know if anybody else did this when I was deciding whether or not I would come to Maxwell. I actually use LinkedIn to reach out to a lot of people. It is really, really great for finding people. If you can, identify people that you want to talk to and then find another way to contact them, because some people, they work in industries that they really don't check it, that they ignore. Most of the emails they get from LinkedIn, like many of us do, because I would hear back like months and months later from people saying, oh yeah, I'm really happy to talk to you, I just never check my LinkedIn messages. So people want to help you. People don't really, a lot of people don't love the LinkedIn messages.
Maybe
so
once every 6 months sometimes. I mean, there's alums who I don't even think have, like, from years ago that they haven't graduated from school. People are just not super, I'm on it like a dozen times a day. I am so not normal in that way. Most people are just never log on. So I totally agree with you, Libby. Just research and then communicate elsewhere. If there's no other way to communicate, go for it within LinkedIn, but I would almost have it be kind of your last option. Q's community, Google, email, other social media channels, just as long as it seems appropriate. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, the Q's community is going to be whatever email that they've given the university for them to be contacted with. So that's really the number one way that our students have gotten responses. So yeah, use the LinkedIn and then throw the name over into the Q's community and see what you get. So.
Any other questions? And like I said, we're doing drop-ins for the rest of the week. You're always welcome to stop in at any time, email any of us, and we can do more customized stuff if that's helpful. But thank you all for coming. take some more pizza. I assume there's some left over. And like I said, please go do it. Do some research. Try and connect with at least one person over break, if not some more, like genuine connections. So thank you. And feel free to linger and do your research in here if you'd like to. But the presentation has officially concluded.